Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Ryedale series, 115 parishes covering a huge area of North Yorkshire between York and Scarborough. It's a beautiful area, so let's have a look at it. Welcome back to Ryedale again, people. Now, last week in Weaverthorpe we began at the village hall. We're doing exactly the same thing here in this particular episode, only this is not called a village hall, it's called something slightly different. It's a community hall, but it probably does the same thing as the village hall in Weaverthorpe does. You'll find it on the end of a dead-end road called Eastfield in the parish of Foxholes. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Foxholes. Foxholes. I do love a village whose name is pretty easy to understand. Hello again, Ryedale, and welcome to Foxholes, whose name is literally exactly what it sounds like. This is where foxes lived, evidently. One of the smallest villages we've encountered so far in Ryedale, Foxholes is another that lies in the Great Wold Valley, right on the border with the East Riding of Yorkshire. This should not be confused with the Foxholes in Hertfordshire, which is a suburb of the town of Hertford, or with the village of Foxhole in Cornwall. Nope, this is truly Yorkshire. Unlike what we've come to expect from the Great Wold Valley, the Gypsey Race doesn't pass through this village. Rather, it runs away south of Foxholes before making its way to Wold Newton. Instead, this is the point where the road following that stream crosses the B1249, the main road from Driffield to Scarborough. It can be a busy little place, therefore, as traffic makes its way between the two towns. Quite often, the main road is noisy, quite unlike anything we've seen so far up here. And there's not a lot in this one, if I'm honest. Foxholes has a community centre, a church, an old chapel, and a big business, but that's about all. There are no pubs, no shops, and no schools, but it'll take way more than that to put me off. Let's get moving, folks. To begin proceedings here, we're driving to Foxholes through Butterwick. This is a linear village to the southwest, running alongside the Gypsey Race, which is mainly subterranean at this point. It's a tiny place, having only 15 houses, and its name means Butter Farm. The original plan here was to stop and take a look at its church, dedicated to St Nicholas. However, it became apparent as I was driving through the place that there was some sort of service going on at the church at the time. The biggest clue was the fact that loads of people were making their way onto the path leading to it. So here's a bit about the church. Built to serve the several farming families in the area, it's Grade 2 listed and it was renovated in 1882, although parts do date back to the 12th century. It stands at the back of a farmyard and was originally a chapel of ease belonging to the church at Foxholes. Let's head towards the main village now and see that church for ourselves. Our main walk begins at the Foxholes Community Hall on Eastfield. This brand spanking new facility replaced an original village hall based in an old school, which closed in 1950. The new site needed an archaeological survey which severely held up the work, but it's quite simply this place's pride and joy now, and it's well used. Outside is a parish notice board. Let's get Foxholes marked off the Ryedale list. 12 down, 103 to go. From here, we make our way out of this dead end towards the B1249. This is one of the newer parts of the village. As we'll see, a walk around Foxholes is like a trip back in time. On old OS maps, most of Foxholes is shown to be clustered around the main road, the B1249. Everything else beyond is fields, with the exception of Ganton Lane. The B1249 is a busy road. This is the main route between Driffield and Scarborough, so it sees a lot of traffic. The speed of the vehicles which use it has been a concern for residents over the years. Virtually everything here is along this road, including a rather dilapidated looking building, the original village hall. This was given to Foxholes in 1880 as a school, closing when Wold Newton School opened in 1950. Also looking a bit forlorn is this old Wesleyan Methodist chapel which faces the road a little further up the hill. Apparently it's used as a store now, even though it's partially boarded up and probably unsafe to enter without guidance. This one's notable for a benchmark on the north side of its porch. Foxholes has lost a lot of its amenities over the years. 100 years ago it was the last watering hole for farm animals on the way to Killam, and it would have been thriving. In recent times it's lost its pub, its shop and its post office. Even the old phone box near Smithy Hill has seen better days. After passing the village green, we now come to Scrutons, a well-known agricultural engineering company who've been serving local farmers since 1894. If I remember correctly, I think I mentioned the name back in the Ryedale episode in Selby, because they have premises there too. Centuries ago, this was something else. Industrially, Foxholes' biggest business was an iron and brass foundry, and Scrutons sits right on its former site. A good portion of the population worked in it too. The presence of Scrutons ensures Foxholes still has an industrial existence in the area today. Now, beyond Wilfred Scrutons, I'm supposed to follow a public right-of-way here, which it took me a while to find, but even though I found it, I'm not actually going to use it, and I'll show you why. Because, as you can see, it's a steep hillside and it's overgrown with nettles, so there's absolutely no way on earth I'm attempting this. You can see the way marker there, look, the pole that's standing out next to that tree, but there's absolutely no way on earth I'm going through there. I wouldn't come out alive. So what I'm going to have to do is go back on the other side of the road to the junction that we saw a few moments ago and head up to the church that way. Now filled in, the green used to be a pond where animals could drink whilst their owners went to the local pub. It was called the Ship, but it's now long gone. We're off up Ganton Lane next, passing Manor Farm on the corner as we go. Foxholes Manor itself is a grand house on the other side of the road around the next bend, shrouded from view by a blanket of trees. Mostly residential, Ganton Lane is a steep uphill climb as the land rises to the highest point in the village. It stands to reason the historical topography of the area would have lent itself to the siting of a church. And it did. This seemed closed and it was unclear why. Even the locals I spoke to nearby didn't seem to know either. In any event, this is St Mary's. The present building is modern, erected as it was in 1866, but it stands on the site of an original Norman church which had a bell tower and a good chancel arch. It was hoped at the time of its rebuild that the old arch could be maintained within the new building, but alas, it was impossible. The new building cost some £2,460, paid for by the Sykes family, Admiral Mitford and the rector Richard Henry Ford, who lived at what is now Foxholes Manor. Okay, so it wasn't the prescribed way of getting here, but at least we got here eventually. The footpath, which I was supposed to use, runs alongside the churchyard. If you look here behind this van, you can see there's a line of trees. It would have come out there somewhere. But there was no way on earth I was going through all those nettles. I'm pretty sure you can't blame me for that. It's been a long climb up this hill to get to this church, but you know what, like I said, it's been worth it, hasn't it? So now we're going to turn around and head back down into the village again and back to the car. There's nothing else really to Foxholes. I've pretty much shown you everything. And after covering Foxholes, our trip through the Great Wold Valley comes to a close. Well, for now anyway. There are more up here, but it's time to move away from it and into a different area. I hope you've enjoyed this picturesque run along the Gypsey Race as much as I have. I'll see you soon, elsewhere in North Yorkshire. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.